Good people, welcome back. So um, let's continue. So a method, a method is a function. It's a function defined within a class. So for this example, a method is a function within a class. So we can take this function here. So when we say a method is a function defined within a class, this qualifies to be a method because it's a function defined within a class. I hope that makes sense. So we have so this is an init method, right? So because it's a function called init, so we've said a function defined within a class, it's called a method. So this qualifies. This qualifies. So this will be called an init function. Sorry, init method. It's a function called init, but we've said a function defined within a class is called a method. So it's an init method. So basically, the init method, the one that I've just explained right now, is normally defined as a constructor. Right? Does that make sense? But this is a constructor. Right? So we've said a method is a function defined within a class. So this becomes a method. And again, we've said this qualifies to be is commonly known as a constructor. So what is it? What is it responsible? What does it do? What's it work? What is the work of the init method? So it is used to set up initial state of the new instance. So I hope that makes sense. That the init, as you just see here, the init method is used to set up the initial state of an instance. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Instance. We're going to write an example. And okay, before we go to an example, let's finish up on explaining this. So we've seen we write okay, our method looks like this. Then we pass a parameter here. The parameter is a self, right? So we pass a self parameter. What does the self parameter do? So the self parameter, since its self is the parameter passed within the function, the method, it references automatically references the instance being created. So basically, being the self, it references the instance being created. I hope that makes sense. For example, in this instance, we've said self.hours and self.minutes. So it references the instance being created. So we're creating an instance of hours and minutes. I hope that makes sense. We'll write an example of a class, and then we see how it runs. So let's say class 1 plus p1. So we're going to example. So we're going to use hours, minutes. Okay. So for a start, we said we use a class keyword. We're going to create a class called time, right? So we can describe here what we're going to do. Then we'll say a class represent basically you just describe what you want to do. So now let's now create a method of the class. So we said a function which is defined inside a class is called a method. So let's create a method in it. Pass a parameter of self. Okay. Then what are the variables we're going to recreate here? We're going to use self dot hours. We assign that to self dot minutes is equals to 0. After doing that, we can now instantiate the time. You can now instantiate the time class. So we can say my time is equals to time. So with this right now, we have created an instance of the time using my time. We said we should use the opening and closing statements. So we can now say my time dot hours equals to 5. Okay, my time minutes is equals to 10. So we've said 5 hours 10 minutes. Let's try and print something. You see, print. Let me say, I hope you remember how we used to pass this. So we say my time dot hours. We want to say hours. We want to print hours. It shows hours. So if we want to show hours alone, this is how we are able to show it. So if we print this, we want to show, since we had it as 5, so it's going to show 5 hours. Let's try and run that and see. So let's do Python class 1. Let's try and see how. So as we see here on the output, we have been able to print 5 hours, which is just right here. Let's try and print the minutes as well. So we say print just in the same way. Do this and we pass the minutes. Say my time. So if we do this, so this will show us 5 hours 10 minutes. So we want to have it in just a single line. So we'll do another comment and this and let's see if we get that. So we now have 5 hours 10 minutes printed well in a straight line. So we've created a class called time. We've created a class called time. We create a method inside it. Then we pass what we want to what the variables in our class. Here we've instantiated the class. We've assigned the hours to 5 and the minutes to 10. Then we have printed it out and we've seen the output printed as 5 hours 10 minutes. I hope that example is clear. You can write as many examples as you want. So attributes can be accessed using the attribute reference operator. I hope that's clear. I hope our example is clear and we'll be able to get how that went about. So maybe as we end this, so that we can proceed to other examples in our next class, as how we can build this up slowly by slowly. I hope you have understood how the class comes about, an example of how our class is created, and the example we've created, we've done. So maybe to to get us going, we shall do a recap of what a class is: self, instance, the init, an attribute. So we will do a recap on this just as we wind up. Let's do a recap of this. So a class, as we've said, a class is a group of related variables and functions. What we have on a point on that class is a group of related variables and functions. An instance, for this matter, as we've seen in our example, we instantiate a class that creates an instance. So an instance is an instantiation of a class. This we've just seen in our previous example of time we've done. So the init is a constructor. I hope we just stated in a few minutes ago. It's a constructor method that initializes. Hope we've done this. We've done an example and we've explained all what this is. An attribute. What's an attribute? An attribute is a name following a symbol. That's what an attribute is. And self, as we've said, the self we've used here. The self we used in self here. This self here. The self in this function, it's a parameter, right? So self is a method parameter referring to a class, or referring to a class instance. That's it for our class today. I hope you've been able to get clear understanding of what a class is, the syntax, what every line in a syntax, how instantiation is done, and how you can print out the results. And we've gone through methods as well, how methods are created, each and every line of a method, what they mean, and we've done an example at the end. So thank you for your time, and let's meet in the next one. In the next one, we're going to do instance methods. So we'll keep building from what we have right now, but this is still an introduction of classes in Python. So thank you for your time. See you in the next one.